dear students, myself Gangadhar Solanke and I welcome you all to the MC James virtual classroom.
My dear students, today we'll be learning the topic empowerment of women and other weaker sections. We have already started this lesson and discussed about the first part of this topic, and in that we discussed about the manifestation of women power, the Chipko movement, anti-liquor movement, International Women's Year, laws for women, which we are going to start today. So the law enacted in 1952 recognizes women's right to alimony and their share in the father's property, which one was the very important and the big thing we can say in the empowerment of women's right to alimony and their share in the father's property. उसके पहले ये नहीं होता था legally. Her right to स्त्रीधन was recognized. Polygamy was made illegal and women, just like men, got the right to sue for divorce. It was a law that took one step forward concerning women's issues over the following decade. Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961. So now today we are going to discuss about the legal things or the laws which were very important in empowering women एंड अदर वीकर सेक्शंस. जैसे हमने पहले पार्ट में देखा कि बहुत सारी सोशल मूवमेंट स्टार्ट हुई और उसकी वजह से वुमेन्स के जितने भी प्रॉब्लम्स थे, सोशल इश्यूज थे, वो फ्लोर पे आ गए, उस पर डिस्कशन हुआ एंड इट रिजल्ट्स इनटू द मेकिंग ऑफ लॉज. सो ऑल दीज लॉज आर देयर एंड इन दिस द डाउरी प्रोहिबिशन एक्ट 1961 मेड बोथ गिविंग एंड टेकिंग, देना भी नहीं है लेना भी नहीं है. The Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961 made both giving and taking of dowry a cognizable criminal offense. This dismantled the dowry tradition by its roots and further encouraged the social movement. One of the very biggest problem was this, the dowry. The law alleviated the distress to women caused by the undesirable tradition of dowry. The Maternity Benefit Act, again the Maternity Benefit Act, which gave women the right to get leave from work at the time of childbirth, also came into force in 1961. Maternity Benefit Act. Now the next thing, awareness against the dowry tradition. Here on the screen you can see the next point, family court. Family courts were established to resolve conflicts arising out of differences within marriage and domestic problems. Family courts were established to resolve conflicts arising out of differences within marriage and domestic problems, as well as alimony, single parenthood, separation. Here you can see alimony, single parenthood, separation, care of children. Very big problem whenever there is divorce between the parents और बिटवीन द हस्बैंड एंड वाइफ. तो बच्चे का क्या होगा, वो किसके पास रहेगा, उसकी केयर कौन करेगा, ये जो बेसिक थिंग्स जो है वो फैमिली कोर्ट्स इस्टेब्लिश होने के बाद सॉल्व होने लगी. केयर ऑफ चिल्ड्रन एंड ओनरशिप विच ऑल रिलेटेड टू द फैमिली सिचुएशन. सो these family courts give priority to mutual understanding or witnesses and evidence and to counselors or lawyers. Emphasis is on resolving issues quickly but justly. Quickly but justly. Then the next one, a fixed amount. Now we are talking about the trial involving alimony. 1985. 1985. Fixed amount paid to a married woman for her upkeep by the husband who has divorced her is called alimony. डाइवोर्स होने के बाद भी उस वुमन को उसका घर चलाने के लिए, अपनी ज़िंदगी चलाने के लिए कुछ पैसे हस्बैंड को देने होते हैं, दैट इज़ कॉल्ड एलिमनी. इन द केस ऑफ मोहम्मद अहमद खान वर्सेस शाहबानो बेगम, the Supreme Court gave the verdict that Shahabano Begum had the right to alimony. However, religious organizations protested occasionally against the verdict. So two things are there again. I'm going to clear. Court is on the other way and religious organizations are on the other way. सो कोर्ट ने ये डिसाइड किया कि एलिमनी मिलना चाहिए, लेकिन जो रिलीजियस ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस थे वो इस फैसले के खिलाफ थे. एज अ रिजल्ट द मुस्लिम वुमेन्स एक्ट प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ राइट्स एंड डाइवोर्स वाज पास्ड बाय पार्लियामेंट. Then now in this, the next point is the Commission of Sati Prevention Act 1987. On 4th September 1987, on 4th September 1987, Roop Kanwar, a married woman, committed sati. Sati means husband अगर मर जाता है, उसकी डेथ हो जाती है, तो उसकी चिता पर खुद की जान देना, that is called sati. She did not to do this for her own free will. She was coerced into doing so. So committing sati, glorifying the practice of sati were all illegal acts. So what is sati? Any widow along with the body of her deceased husband or any other relative or with any article, object or thing associated with the husband or such relative. So here Roop Kanwar, who refused to do this. The women activist and journalist Meena Menon, Geeta Sheshu, Sujata Anandam, Anu Joseph and Kalpana Sharma investigated the case. In 1998, the government passed the Sati Prevention Act with very stringent provisions. Very stringent provisions. So this law also very important when we talk about the empowerment of women. Now the next point, Protection of Human Right Act. In 1993, this law was enacted to prevent injustice to men and women. The National Human Rights Commission was also formed for this purpose, and in some states, the State Human Rights Commission was also formed on the same lines. In the political science, you people can study in detail about the human rights. So this law, which deals with collective operation, the social conditions of divorced women and secure workplaces, played an effective role in mitigating injustice to women. Next point, reservation for women. The 73rd and 74th amendments to the Constitution provide for reservation of 1/3 of the seats, provided for reservation of 1/3 of the seats for women in Gram Panchayats, Panchayat Samitis, Jilla Parishad, municipalities and municipal corporation, as well as for the posts of Sarpanch, Chairman and Mayor. Now this law or the reservation for women increased, or because of this the number of women in the politics increased. आज जो पॉलिटिक्स में इतनी ज़्यादा महिलाएं हमें दिखती है, which is the result of reservation for women. In the post-independence period, the Constitution of India accepted the principle of equality of men and women. Equality of men and women, and hence women got the important political right to vote. Women got equal rights to education and work on par with men. Now again the same thing, अगर हम इंडिपेंडेंस के पहले की बात करेंगे तो ना तो उन्हें वोट का अधिकार था और बहुत सारी प्रथाएं, परंपराएं, रिचुअल्स, ट्रेडिशंस ऐसी थी जो उन्हें लाइक अ स्लेव ट्रीट करती थी. So because of all these things, women got equal rights to education and work on par with men. Inhuman practices like sati, dowry and polygamy were banned by law. Women's right to sue for divorce was recognized. Not only the men, women also can sue for divorce in the court. They got a lawful share in property. In local self-government bodies, seats were reserved for women so that they would have their just share of political power. 50% in state of Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, Kerala, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Rajasthan, Tripura, Uttarakhand and in West Bengal. So women candidates have generally seen higher turnout of women voters. So we see today that due to these provisions, women have begun to get education and to earn. They have started getting education and because of that getting jobs. Also due to ideas of women's liberation, women are developing a sense of self. They have begun to participate enthusiastically and with determination in all fields of education, earning money, administration and politics that we can see in the society. Now our next point is scheduled castes. In the post-independence period, our constitution adopted the values of freedom, equality, fraternity and social justice. You people already learned about this in 7th standard civics and also we're having these values in the preamble of our constitution. So in accordance with his, the practice of untouchability was banned by law. Practice of untouchability was banned by law. Untouchability is what? Which was based on the caste and religion and the Varna system before independence. Then also after independence in some part of our country, untouchability was in practice, but now it is legally banned. Untouchability was removed by the 17th paragraph of the constitution. By the 17th paragraph of the constitution, and this class was included in the scheduled caste. So the people who were in the particular caste are included in scheduled caste and the untouchability was banned. In view of the educational and social backwardness of these castes. So whenever we are talking about scheduled caste, तो scheduled caste में अलग अलग castes आती है. Whenever we talk about scheduled tribes, तो उसमें भी अलग अलग tribe आते हैं. When we talk nomadic or denotified tribes, then also castes are included in that. So here we are talking about SC, that is scheduled castes, and in view of the education and social backwardness of these castes, they were given reservations. They were given reservations in education as well as jobs to facilitate their development, or we can say to bring them into the mainstream, because of the untouchability or because of the Varna system or because of the caste system in our country, their rights were denied. They don't have rights. So in our constitution, as per the 17th paragraph, untouchability was removed and also not only removed, but because of their social backwardness, many types of reservation like reservation in education and also in jobs are given to bring them into mainstream. Here you can see in the map scheduled caste SC people as percentage of total population according to the 2011 census. Now the next point, scheduled tribes, that is ST. Just like the scheduled castes, the scheduled tribes or Adivasis. So here we can easily understand that the castes in the ST are the tribes. So scheduled tribes or Adivasis, here you can see, just like the scheduled caste, the scheduled tribes or Adivasis who live in remote parts of the country. Remote parts of the country also face several difficulties. Now here question and answer both are in one sentence. They are facing several difficulties. Why? Because they are living in remote parts of the country. So वहाँ पर facilities उतनी नहीं पहुँची है. No availability of sources or the availability of services like education, health, as they have lived far away from the progress made in society, made in modern society. They are economically and socially backward because they are not in the mainstream. Why? The same answer, who live in remote parts of the country. तो जितना भी मॉडर्नाइजेशन हुआ वो उन तक नहीं पहुंचा और वो लोग भी शहरों तक या गांव के पास नहीं आए. So the progress made in modern times, they are economically and socially backward. Even though their conditions have seen some improvement in recent times. Now why conditions have seen some improvement? Because government is working on the development of ST and SC, bringing number of schemes and policies for them and trying to bring them in the mainstream by reaching there. So even though their conditions have seen some improvement in recent times, they do not have any means of livelihood other than agriculture and forest produce. So here we can see they are directly or indirectly but totally dependent on agriculture and forest produce. Here in the screen you can see वो जो वुमेन हमें दिख रही है पिक्चर में, वो फॉरेस्ट से कुछ सामान लेके उसे बेचने के लिए या फिर अपना कुछ दिन भर का काम करके उस पर अपना गुजारा करते हैं. सो दे आर डिपेंडेंट ऑन द agriculture and forest produce. Modern farming implements have not yet reached them and hence their income from agriculture is very small compared to the agricultural income of other people in the country or in the other parts of the country. जो modernization हुआ है in the field of agriculture, that also not reached to the tribes. Their fields are on hillsides. One more thing, their fields are on hillsides and not fertile, so that वहाँ पर अच्छे crops नहीं आते हैं. They are malnourished due to insufficient and poor quality of diet. Like today, people in cities or people in the villages taking good food, but when we talk about the scheduled tribes, then they are malnourished, and the reason behind this that the insufficient and poor quality of food, not only poor quality but insufficient. Adivasis in remote areas find it difficult to get medical attention in time, and that's why also they are facing number of problems दे आर इन ट्रबल बिकॉज ऑफ दिस ऑल्सो. जब भी कोई बीमारी आ जाती है या फिर कोई डिसीज़ आ जाता है तो उन तक वो सारी चीज़ें मेडिकली जो पहुंचनी चाहिए वो नहीं पहुंचती, बिकॉज दे आर इन द रिमोट एरिया. And for all these reasons, there is a need to give special protection to Adivasis. So, in the Indian Constitution, Adivasis have been enumerated as scheduled tribes. They are getting given representation in law boards, education, government services, etc. Like SC, ST is also having reservation in education and in law boards and also in government services. So all these things are for the scheduled tribes and for scheduled caste and for nomadic and denotified tribes and for minorities, because it is very important to develop equally. Development should be equal. Now the next in this, nomadic and denotified tribes. By these pictures you can understand about which type of tribe we are talking. Castes and tribes that move from place to place for a livelihood are included under nomadic tribes. There is no settlement, or they don't have anything to settle somewhere, don't have job or farm, so they are continuously moving from one place to another place. They live by rearing animals. You may have seen such type of people while moving from one place to another or from moving from one city to another. So these people, nomadic and denotified tribes, live by rearing animals and engaging in some other occupations. The British had declared some of them as criminal tribes. We're talking about the period when we were slaves of Britishers. The British had declared some of them as criminal tribes in the law of 1871. In the law of 1871, to curb crimes or to minimize the crime rates, some of the main groups were mentioned as criminal types and their occupations and movements were banned. This was not the condition after independence. It changed totally, and Government of India or the Constitution of India worked for these people also. This unjust law, the very first thing, this unjust law was repealed in the post-independence period, and the curbs on these tribes were lifted. They were included under denotified tribes. Special efforts are made by the government for the purpose of their social and economic development. Now, if you people go through the internet, then you can find number of schemes and policies which government run for these people to bring them in the mainstream or for their social and economic development. These tribes have been given representation in educational institutions and the government sector. So for the social and economic development, it is very important to go through the education. Until and unless people will not get the education, they will not come into the mainstream. Now next to the nomadic and denotified tribes, we have the last point of this topic, and that is minorities. As we people know that in India, number of religions are living together with peace and harmony. In any society, a group of people of a particular religion, language or race who are few in number are termed as a minority. Who are minorities? Who are few in number compared to other religions, compared to the people who are speaking particular language and compared to the people who are speaking different language, तो उन्हें minorities कहा जाता है. As there are various religions, sects, and languages in our country. We see great cultural diversity. Again, I'm saying the same thing that you people learnt about this in previous standards about the unity and diversity in our country, about the cultural heritage of our country, about the different festivals and different food types and working clothes in our country. So all these things are nothing but the beauties of our culture, and together it makes our culture rich. So there is variation in cultural traditions too. In order to preserve their cultural traditions and develop their own language, the constitution gives the citizen certain educational and cultural rights. Not only to preserve but to develop their own language, the constitution gives the citizens certain educational and cultural rights. Safeguards the rights of religious and linguistic minorities. And these minorities have the right to protect and conserve. Not only to protect but also to conserve their language, culture, and traditions. Again, I am saying this is the beauty of our constitution, that it treats everyone equally. It treats each and every religion equally. There is no discrimination on the basis of caste or on the basis of religion or on the basis of language or on the basis of sex. Everyone is equal in front of law. It doesn't matter that how much you are in number. आप कितने लोग हैं वो मैटर नहीं करता है. You are Indian citizen, then you have the same right as other people are having or enjoying. So, to protect and conserve the language, culture, and traditions, Indian Constitution have the right to set up separate educational institutions. And through these institutions, number of things are going to develop the culture or to protect or to conserve the language, culture, and traditions. The government implements various schemes for their progress. So in today's part of our topic empowerment of women and other sections, we discussed about the laws for women, awareness against the dowry tradition, family courts, trial involving alimony, the Commission of Sati Act, Protection of Human Rights Act, reservation for women, scheduled castes, nomadic and de-notified tribes, scheduled tribes, and the last point, minorities. In the next chapter, we shall learn about the progress that India has made in the field of science and technology in the post-independence period. Please subscribe the channel and press bell icon to get notifications.
So my dear ones, this is all for today. Thank you very much. Stay home, stay safe, take care.